Hi, everyone. This is the Diverse Jewish Books podcast. I'm really excited to welcome here Alan Silberberg today. Alan is the author of numerous children's books, author and illustrator of numerous children's books,
Thank you.
with a Jewish food theme in all of them so far, anyway.
So
Thanks
far, yes, thank you.
so far. Thanks for joining us, Alan.
It's a pleasure, Lauren, and it's really nice to just be hanging out and talking and catching up again.
It certainly is. I like to kick off every podcast with the same question. Can you tell me about yourself and what being Jewish looks like to you?
Well, I, being Jewish for me has always been kind of an outsider looking in. I grew up Jewish. I had a bar mitzvah. I went to Hebrew school, but it was not really part of my identity. It was an extra thing. And it really wasn't, I got married to a Jewish woman and a chuppah and rabbi and loved it. But my connection to being Jewish has always been more cultural than even spiritual. And through the process, I didn't start writing these Jewish books until, I don't know, I was in my 40s, and not saying how old I am now. But I started, actually, it was 50 when it was published. Um, Jewish changed for me because I became associated with PJ Library and went on their very first author illustrator Israel trip, and it was the first time in my life I was put in a Jewish container and met some incredibly diverse, beautiful people, most of which were Jewish, some were not, as part of this trip. And I came back from that trip. It's not like, a Messiah moment, but I came back from the trip just changed. I came back really open to my Jewishness. And I had already, I think I was selected as to be on the trip because Meet the LATKES was just about to be published and they were going to feature it. So I already had one foot in the door. And I think had I not gone on that trip, maybe I wouldn't have continued doing these Jewish books, but I loved being part of um, this silly side of Judaism. And for whatever I can offer to people through the way I approach books and um, my own sort of view of being Jewish, I like being part of that. And I don't know if I answered your question.
I think that's exactly the answer to the question. It's unique to
Okay.
everyone, so there's
Okay,
no
great.
right answer. And but you mentioned PJ Library, and I
Yes.
think you've also deepened the connection with PJ Library, right? That you've had. How many PJ Library books do you have now out?
I have, not counting the Bagel book, which comes out soon. Um, I guess I have five Jewish themed books, and four of them are PJ books.
And you also go on a retreat every summer for PJ
Yes.
Library.
Yes, I am again. I have several guardian angels in my life in the publishing world, and PJ Library, Chris Barish, et al. Like I don't want to single her out, but she's one of the guardian angels. PJ reached out to me 3 summers ago and asked if I wanted to be on faculty. They have a highlights foundation summer camp with PJ Library for people who are either first books or trying to get into publishing picture books. So I am one of three faculty. I don't even want to say faculty. I'm just one of three dudes. Well, no, I'm the only dude. One of three people. Heidi Stempel and Leslie Newman are the other two main faculty. But that's where I met you last year. And it's just a wonderful 5, 6 day experience of community and mentor menteeship. Anyway, it's another part of my Jewish stripe. It isn't a Jewish experience, but it's that family part of being Jewish, and I'm so grateful that I'm part of the Highlights PJ camp. It's great.
It's
It's
an
fun.
incredible community for sure.
Yeah.
So you've had quite the journey to becoming a picture book author illustrator. It didn't start with picture books, we know. It started long before that. Can you tell us how you got here?
Sure. I think everyone has somewhat of a unique path, and it's never the same for everybody. My path began, I think, in university. Well, I live in Canada now, but they say university for everything. In college, at the University of Massachusetts, I created my own major called Cartoon Communication Education, where I knew, because I was a cartoonist, I always doodled. I wanted to work in education, but I wanted to do media. I wanted to do like kids' TV and animation. And so I created this weird little major. And I never thought of writing books or even illustrating books. My first careers were doing children's television. And I had a wonderful, fun career working for Nickelodeon and working for the Disney Channel and making kids' TV shows. And again, books I always read. Once we had a child, he was a book kid. I mean, books, 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 reading every night. And I think that transitional experience, coupled with working in TV, is really exhausting, and you have to please so many people. I started thinking about, wow, I love reading to Zach every night. And actually, I have to credit Kaylee, my wife, who said, all of your screenplays, like whenever you write scripts, all the descriptive parts are always so beautiful. Maybe you should write like a book. Oh, I dropped an earphone. And now I have. Maybe you should write a book. So that, coupled with wanting to write something for my kid, for Zach, led to my first novel. And I wrote a book called Pond Scum, which was a middle grade novel that I wrote. I'd only written 2 chapters. Zach went into his second grade teacher and said, my dad's writing a book. And she said, maybe he wants to come in. And so I said, okay, yeah, I don't have a book, but I've got 2 chapters. And it was this amazing experience where I read 2 chapters and these little faces, and they all just went, then what happens? And I went, give me 2 weeks. And I went home and I wrote more. And so I ended up writing and reading this whole book to this classroom of kids, which really helped me. Like it was such joy and such, I don't know, the process was lovely. But of course, like, publishing a book is not easy. So I'd done TV already. I thought, so it'll be easy to publish a book. And I was unaware of the gauntlet of getting an agent and getting rejected. And anyway, years went by. I didn't publish the book until the kids were in 6th grade. And they all got a copy, and we had a party. And so that started this idea that I don't need to do TV. Maybe I can keep writing novels. So I wrote a second novel. I didn't know what it was going to be about, and this turned into, I wanted to illustrate it. And Wimpy Kid was big at the time. And I wanted to do sort of a Wimpy Kid funny junior high school story. But in thinking about being 12 years old, my stories kept surfacing in it. My story is that I lost my mom when I was about 9. And so my character of Milo, who started off just being a kid who just doesn't fit in, once I got to like the 3rd or 4th chapter, I realized, well, why can't I make him a funny kid who's anxious, whose mom has passed away, and he's dealing with that, but dealing with everything. And Milo Sticky Notes and Brain Freeze, I think like Pond Scum went out of print, but Milo kind of set me into the world of middle grade. And I was blessed, fortunate, grateful. That book won the SCBWI Sid Fleischman Humor Award, which for a book about a kid dealing with his mom's death, to win the humor award was exactly, that's what I was, that just spoke so beautifully to my heart, because humor is, I don't know, it's my thing. I don't want to say superpower. It's my being funny, but also being heartfelt. Humor and heart, that
It's
really matters
you.
to me. Well, thank you. It is me. They're very, very kind to say that. And anyway, to get back to my little journey. So I wrote those two books, and then I wrote a third middle grade novel. And I don't know, life was just life. And I didn't know, I kept trying to sell more books. They weren't selling. I kept trying to write long novels, weird, wonderful journey novels, middle grade, and I couldn't get it right. And I went back to TV, kids TV, and hated it. And my agent said to me, you know, that animation I also do these little cartoon animations. And if you go to my website, you'll see this. I had made a Hanukkah card, like that I would send every year to agents and business people and book people. And it was just this little silly Latke family wishing everybody a happy Hanukkah. And my agent said, maybe there's something in a Latke family. Have you ever thought about it? And even though I've been drawing since I was 14, oh, thumb up, look at that. I didn't know that. This is fancy. This is
It
really
is fancy technology.
good. I never considered drawing and writing a kid's book, even though, like, if you were reading the crystal ball, you'd go, hey, this guy should be writing. Anyway, never considered it. But so I wrote a book called Meet the LATKES, and I illustrated a bunch of it. And my agent, Jill Grinberg, she sent it out, and it was rejected by everybody. And I got I think two publishers gave me notes like, well, we can't publish a book about latkes eating latkes at a latke party. And I was like, this is a good point. But, and I talked about my angel people, but Lila Sales at Viking wrote to Jill and said, I think there's something funny here, and I think there's like there's something here. Would Alan be willing to like work with me? Now, I can't make an offer. I can't promise an offer will ever come. But would he be interested in just like brainstorming and letting me touch it and play with it? And I mean, we're in a business where we always have to say yes, and I wanted to say yes, but it was an easy yes. And she found the heart in it, which was always there, but helped me expand it into a little bit more Jewish, talking about the holiday of Hanukkah through my voice, through a silly, somewhat sarcastic, fun voice. And she helped steer it through the process to a point where they wanted to make an offer. PJ Library had seen it. They wanted to come on board, which helped them make an offer. And that is my circuitous path of saying yes and trying new things to get to being this new career. And I'm grateful. I'm just grateful.
So that people listening to this know, what is it that the latkes actually end up eating in the story?
Thank you. I thought that was such a
Not the
great note.
cannibals.
Like it was such a great note. The other, I will answer that. I'll answer that by saying the latkes, there are not any latkes to be eaten. There are sufganiyot, but they are not anthropomorphic. So they just look like sufganiyot. No eyes, no mouths. So we never really see, well, we see one of the parents taking a bite, but that's about it. But when I got the call that they wanted to buy the book, it was with a but. But they said we don't want you to illustrate it. And I said, I'm not going to say no, I mean, again, you don't say no. These doors are hard to open, as you know, and as everybody out there might know if you're trying to sell books. But I said, can I try? Because I had already illustrated it. They just didn't like, what I did, and that's fine. The art director said, your drawings hurt my teeth because I did bright colors. Anyway, so I auditioned and I obviously got the job, but I had to figure out how to make it work.
So that it didn't hurt anyone's teeth.
I still think the teeth hurting was good, but that's okay. I'm not
It's like
complaining.
the candy of books.
I'd like that as a little like title. Alan Silberberg, he writes the candy of books. That's good.
I feel like we need like a saltwater taffy book in your repertoire at some point. That just feels very East Coast Jewish to
Well,
me.
well, but that's the thing, Lauren. Do I step away? Like, do I step away from Jewish foods? I mean, saltwater taffy. I bet if we do the history, we'll find there must be a Jewish connection to Hungarian people losing their teeth. I don't know, but now I want to look into it.
Yeah, right. That you could actually give them a teeth hurting story in this sort of flippant way.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yes. What is, and for what it's worth, Meet the Latkes does feel like this iconic evergreen Hanukkah story. Now it's been out a couple of years, but this last Hanukkah, I actually had this opportunity to go into my child's preschool, and that was the book that my child asked to read. And so, I brought it in. I'm carrying it under my arm. I'm bringing snacks too, so I have like a big bag of snacks, and I have this book under my arm, and I got stopped multiple times. It's not long from like the door of the building to the classroom door.
Yeah.
Multiple times along the way, I actually got stopped by people being like, that is my favorite Hanukkah book, or we just read it, that's so funny, or I just borrowed that from the library. And so it feels like a really incredible entrance, like maybe like Milo was, sort of like this book winning this Fleischman Award. Meet the Latkes feels like a really fortuitous way to have entered picture book writing.
I feel the same way in that all I wanted was to create. I kind of grew up, and I'm sure there were funny Hanukkah books, but even when my son was a kid, we would read these Hanukkah stories, and a lot of them were really dark or shtetly and I great, like that's
It's
great,
true.
it's all good, but I wanted something that was light and silly, but reverent. Like in no way do I want to make fun of the story that we know, but I wanted it to have humor to it, and I think that's the fortuitous thing about the book is that, yeah, it's become like when people put out the lists every year. Oh, these are my favorite Hanukkah books. It's not always on it, but 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5, I don't know, but it has hit a mark. And I'm again, I think I'm using this word, grateful. I'm just grateful. It's a it's a wonderful it's a wonderful path, and I've met some wonderful people who have opened doors for me, and I appreciate that.
You bring a lot of joy in your writing,
Thank you.
which is consistent throughout them. Okay, so
Thank you.
what is you've had a long journey with ups and downs, lots of good ups, some downs, guardian angels that have looked out for you along the way, and you've advocated for yourself too quite a bit along this journey to open the doors. It's not just fortune.
Yes.
What has been the biggest lesson for you along the way in this journey?
Well, I think you just sort of mentioned it. I think for any of us on a creative path, um, there are so many closed doors and so many no's and so many hoops and hurdles, and like it's not for the faint. It's I sort of have embraced the idea that I need to forge the path. Like there is no path for me, and everyone's different. But I need to, with every opportunity, little one that I'm given, and it's, by the way, getting a contract is not a little thing. I mean, it was a big thing, but I needed to make sure that more books happened. So I needed to say, hey, how about a matzah book and a Passover book or a Purim book? And I had to keep pushing to open these doors so that I could continue making my books, my art, my journey into Judaism, and it's all because I have wonderful guardian angel support, and my, Lila Sales left Viking, and now she's at Carben. So hi, Lila. But Maggie Rosenthal became my editor at Viking and champion. She's a champion. Like the whole team that we have working on these books. Every time we get to do a new one, it reminds me of TV where it's like, oh, we're back together again. Yay, come on, it's fun. I'm having fun. And I'm also not accepting that I have to keep pushing. I have to keep opening the doors and keeping a foot there. And, it helps that it's Jewish food because I can always send people bagels and cookies.
That's right. It's like oh, hi, I'm here. And also, here is a package of bagels shipped straight from the best bagel store in all of Montreal.
St. Viator's, yes.
It doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, you'll have to be really thoughtful about that future books. Really,
Yeah, well, how can I feed people?
how can you feed people? Should we make a list of like what kind of foods, Should we
Oh, I
expect a
have a
box to
list.
book down?
I do have a list.
Does falafel ship well? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's going to be tough because the next book is, um, I'm starting to illustrate it right now, the falafel who felt awful. So what happened is I got away from, I figured three of these meet the books, which celebrated different holidays, was enough. Like I could have kept going to do other meet this, but I wanted to do something that was Jewish adjacent. So that's where the Bagel Who Wanted Everything came from. It's a Jewish food. It is not a book about a Jewish holiday, but it's a social emotional story of individualism and what it means to want to be more than what you are told you have always been. And I really loved getting into that. And to me, that is Judaism. I mean, that is a part of uh, the Judaism side of talking about feelings or not, or just expressing oneself in a humanistic way. So that led to, and I had to pitch it, the Falafel Who Felt Awful, which will be the next book, which is a different story entirely, social emotional. How does a person, falafel, not feel bad when? What are the different ways we try not to feel bad when we feel bad? And the other foods all have a way, and the falafel doesn't have a way, but figures it out. No spoilers.
Looking forward to it next year.
Yes.
But for now, you do have a brand new book coming out this month. I think it's July 29th. Can you tell us about the Bagel Who Wanted Everything, which we can see beautifully in the background of the
Yes. Well,
here.
the Bagel Who Wanted Everything is the story of. It's in a world of bagels, and in this world of bagels have always been one thing. So, plain bagels have always been just plain. Salt bagels have always been just salt. One thing. We are one thing and one thing only, and everybody's fine with that. Except this plain bagel is like, hey, I like being plain. Plain's great. It's not like I don't want to be plain, but in a world of so many things, why can't I be more? Why can't I be everything? And the family says, no, 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 we're just plain. And the other bagels say, no, 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 we're all just one thing. And this bagel goes on a little journey to try to find other things to be. And without getting into too many specifics, the bagel's journey is a little weird. Like the bagel tries to be a washing machine. The bagel thinks, well, maybe I could be a hat. Um, and in the end, the bagel accepts the one thing, but finds a way, discovers through his friends that there is a way to be everything. And then from that day forth, bagels could be anything they wanted to be. Anything, everything, nothing, something. And that's the message of the book. You know, we don't have to be what we're told. We don't have to accept that what we are expected to be is what we will be. We can be what we want.
Bagel in this story goes on this really emotional journey, actually, of like searching for everything, trying all these different like experiences on, and then resigning itself to just being the one thing. What for you were the elements and then ends up, of course, like not having to be that one thing and then showing everyone else that, there's this realm of possibilities. What elements of the story did you feel most strongly about incorporating?
I really wanted for kids to have an experience of this book and go, oh, I can question identity. Oh, I don't have to accept what has been acceptable forever and ever. Oh, it's okay to look. It's okay to want new things, more things. And it's okay to fail. Not that the bagel, I mean, in the end, the bagel doesn't really fail, but the bagel really goes way out of the bagel's world to try to solve this problem and kind of comes back and is made fun of for the journey that was taken. And I think it's important to take journeys, whether they succeed or fail. Small ones, big ones, one's imagined, one's real. So I think those are the elements that really spoke to me as I journeyed to this book. I'm really proud of it. Like it's new for me. I'm very nervous too because it's coming out, and you never know. But I'm proud that it's a different kind of story for me.
What feels really unique to you about this story versus the ones that you've written before this?
Oh, I think what the other stories are hybrid Jewish holiday books that have jokes, and I like my jokes. I'm not putting down my jokes, but they're silly stories about Jewish holidays and funny food characters. And I think in this book, though it's funny food characters, I feel like I'm able to have more of my heart in it and say more about the human condition. I don't want to make it sound much bigger than it is, but it's more of a heartfelt story for me, and I'm happy and proud to have kind of pushing into that realm with this next series of books.
It really does that. And one thing that's really special about it is the other bagels actually help the plain bagel realize what it can become, even if they themselves don't realize
Yes.
that being more than one thing is possible. Can you
Yes.
talk more about why you had the bagel friend sort of play this role for plain bagel?
Well, it was one of the struggles. Because let me just back up for a sec. This book came about, as most of my books do, as a title. I did not know what the story was. I I pitched a bunch of titles of what I called foodal fables, and The Bagel Who Wanted Everything was one of them. So that was, of the four that I pitched, that was the one that hooked them. And you always say yes. So then I had to figure out the story, and I didn't want it to be a story about plain is no good, because plain is just plain. Like, I really struggled with, how do I tell this individualization story without denigrating being plain? Like, plain's awesome. And so when I came up with these other types of bagels, it took me a while to find that, oh, bagels are just one thing. That's all. It's just one thing. Like, we don't need more than one. One's great. So every bagel is great. Garlic's great. And onion's great. It cries a little, but every bagel is great. And so they're all on the same footing that way. One isn't better than the other. It's just that this plain bagel is kind of questioning stuff. Like, why? Why not? And it was important for me to have friends kind of support, but also they're the ones who kind of laugh at the bagel for what the bagel does. And, friends do laugh at us sometimes. It's not always mean. And in this way, it actually becomes a real growth experience.
For all of them.
For all of them.
What was the most difficult aspect of this story for you? Doesn't have to be in the writing, could be any aspect of the publication journey.
The hardest part for me, I think, is what I started saying just previously, in that I knew I wanted it to be a book about, I knew the sentence, like, in a world of everything, why do I have to be one thing? I knew that was there, but I struggled with the ultimate message that, how do I say it's okay to be everything? And by everything, I mean any combination or non-combination. And I didn't want to be judgy. And I think it wasn't a struggle, but from a writing point of view, it was a little tough. Also, drawing, when you're playing with a lot of brown tones, it gets a little, it was hard for me not to be drab in trying to get color into the book. And falafel, man, that's a tough one.
You're just picking these brown tones
Yes.
here.
Well, I have a pickle book coming, so that at least I have green coming.
That's right. There is actually, for those listening and who are excited about this story, I'm going to include images of the book along the way as we're talking. And I can definitely confirm that, especially after Bagel goes on its very exciting journey, it is quite colorful.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my over the rainbow moment, I guess. Like, we go from black and white to color for Dorothy.
It really is. It really is your over the rainbow moment here. And there is a rainbow bagel in the story
Yes,
too. So
yes, there
no
is.
spoilers, but can you talk about what as you were writing this story and you were thinking about this, like, social emotional learning and the journey that that Bagel is going on, what did you do research for this story? Talk about, like, how you crafted this bagel world.
I did not do research per se. In all of my books, I just do a lot of doodling. Um, and I had a hard time containing, this goes back to the earlier question, but containing the story, because, I mean, at one point, the bagel went to a guru in a poppy seed mountain, and I had the bagel going to the Better Bagel Bureau and being, told what he could or couldn't do. And by doodling and coming up with scenes, maybe this comes back to my TV writing, but coming up with scenes, I'm able to then go, oh, that doesn't work. But that does lead to the idea that how else am I going to show that the bagel has tried everything? And how else, who is going to be the feedback? So I solve problems by creating them. Sometimes. I don't always solve them, but I try to solve them.
How did you surprise yourself in any way writing this one or illustrating this one?
Um, I didn't really surprise myself in the writing. I did have a moment where I said, "This isn't funny. Like, I gotta be funny." And going back through it and saying, "Well, I can't really have a grandmother bagel be moldy and old." And then I went, "Well, maybe that's funny." So I I had to push myself. Not that it's not a funny book, but I didn't want it just to be cute. So that was, I wasn't so much a surprise, but it was a challenge. And there were a couple of drawings that surprised me. Like I really, um, I really like the character, the layout of all the different types of bagels. Like I, I went, oh, those are funny. I did good.
They are good. What about your own background? So going back to the first question and this identity question, what about your own background and experiences influenced the way that you wrote The Bagel Who Wanted Everything?
Well, I've such a great question, Lauren. Uh, I, I was always like an outsider. Um, I was always somebody who, when the group goes left, I go right. When the gym teacher says run the 500-yard dash, I do it backwards. Um, I kind of have always pushed against authority, maybe. And it's not like authority is in this book. I mean, but precedent is like we're only one thing. We're it's just it's how it's always been. That's how it's going to be. And I think that piece of me is the plain bagel character. Like, no, and he's not like sassy about it, and he's not like a jerk about it. But he's like, but why? And I think I think that's me coming through the book.
Bagel has carved out its own unique space in the bagel world.
Yes, he's been sliced.
I don't know if that's like a
I don't know. You said carved. I went to sliced.
sort of like chopping apart your main character in a book
I
sounds a
don't know.
little dangerous
That's
for
a
plain
little
bagel
business
here.
bad.
So you had this with pond scum going into your son's classroom and being able to read it and then celebrate with his class. How do you that is just the most special
It was
book
great.
launch experience. How do you plan to celebrate The Bagel Who Wanted Everything when it comes out later this month?
We're talking about it. I don't have a plan for any big. Summer's a hard time to launch a book. Um, I think in the fall, we're going to have something in Montreal, a bagel party and a bagel launch at one of the bookstores or my favorite bagel store. Um, but I think it's going to be a quiet celebration here with a lovely spread and a lot of schmear.
A lot of schmear. How could you do anything but?
No.
Okay, I have one closing question about bagel here. What is your own personal favorite bagel? What on Sunday mornings or whatever day you consume your bagels, what is the bagel that you gravitate to?
All right. Good question. And this is a Montreal specific answer. In Montreal, because we will then go to St. Viator's and they they're baked on a fire and they come out hot, and you get a hot sesame bagel, which is almost too hot to eat, and it's chewy and sweet, and it's the best. I am partial though to an everything bagel if it's done right. I do like all those little flavors, but the sesame hot bagel is my go-to bagel.
For those who are listening to this and didn't realize we were actually a travel blog advertising Montreal, here we are. Now we
Come
know where
visit,
to
say
go.
hi. We'll have bagels. It's all good.
That's exactly, that's not my prime takeaway from this, but it is one of the many. And what is the best way for readers to follow along with your work?
I do have a website, silberbooks.com. Um, Send me a message. I love questions. I love comments. Just say hi.
And you also have a great Instagram page where we see illustrations that you're working on in real
Yes.
time.
Yes. I do.
Which is
I, you know, I do what I have to do. I hate that part of me that has to constantly show what I'm doing, but it's part of the job, I guess. And so, yeah, I do that, and
we're
I'm
rooting you
happy to
on
do
in
it.
this
Like I like
journey.
it. I like it, but it's enough of this guy.
We don't see you as much, I feel like, on the Instagram as much as the art. Things like, for example, this, when you pre-order Alan's book, The Bagel Who Wanted Everything. I think that's very cool, this hand-drawn, hand-painted art for us. Okay, with that, I want to say thank you, Alan, for joining me on the Diverse Jewish podcast today. And I am rooting for an amazing launch for The Bagel Who Wanted Everything.
Thank you, Lauren. It's so fun to see you and to talk to you. And I love your podcast. I love everything that you do. And I just think you're terrific.
Thank you, Alan. Happy book reading, everyone. Happy sesame hot bagel eating.